In the heart of ancient Athens, amidst marble temples and bustling markets, walked a man who dared to challenge the very fabric of reality. He owned no grand estates, wrote no books, and claimed no divine wisdom. Yet, 2,400 years later, his name echoes through lecture halls, courtrooms, and the corridors of power. This is the story of Socrates, the philosopher who taught us to think, the soldier who defied death, and the martyr who drank poison for the truth. Welcome to Heretic History, where history isn't just about dates, it's about the ideas that define humanity. Before Plato's dialogues, before Aristotle's logic, there was Socrates, a man so influential that all philosophy is said to be merely footnotes to his thoughts. But who was he? Why did Athens, the world's first democracy, condemn its greatest thinker to death? And how did a humble stonemason become the unwitting founder of Western philosophy? Let's journey back to 5th century Greece, where our story begins. Born in 469 BC, Socrates entered a world still reeling from the Persian Wars. Athens, a fledgling democracy, was rising as a cultural titan. But Socrates was no aristocrat. His father, Sophronius, was a stonemason. His mother, Phanerate, a midwife. Young Socrates likely followed in his father's footsteps, chiseling marble for the Parthenon's construction. Yet even as his hand shaped stone, his mind chiseled at bigger questions. What is justice? Can virtue be taught? Does the soul outlive the body? At 18, Socrates traded his chisel for a spear, fighting in the Peloponnesian War. Historians recount his almost superhuman endurance, marching barefoot through snow, surviving brutal winters. But war didn't harden him. Instead, it sharpened his curiosity. On campaign, he'd stand motionless for hours, lost in thought. Soldiers mocked him as the absent-minded philosopher, but Socrates was piecing together a radical idea: that true wisdom begins by admitting ignorance. Returning to Athens, Socrates wandered the agora, the city's pulsating heart. Unlike the sophists who charged fees to teach rhetoric, Socrates preached freely. His classroom was the streets, his students, anyone willing to endure his questions. The unexamined life is not worth living, he declared. To Socrates, philosophy wasn't abstract. It was a scalpel, cutting through pretense to expose the raw nerves of truth. Socrates' greatest weapon was not a sword or a shield. It was a question. Imagine a man who could dismantle a politician's arrogance, a poet's illusions, or a general's hubris, with nothing but a raised eyebrow and the words, "What do you mean by that?" This was the Socratic method, a relentless pursuit of truth through dialogue. It was not about lecturing, but about exposing contradictions, one inquiry at a time. Here's how it worked. Socrates would approach someone claiming expertise, say, a general who boasted about courage. He'd ask, "What is courage?" The general might reply, "Facing battle without fear." Socrates would counter, "Is a lion courageous if it feels no fear? Or is courage acting despite fear?" Flustered, the general would revise his definition, only for Socrates to dismantle it again. The goal: to show that true wisdom begins with admitting, "I do not know." Plato immortalized these exchanges in his dialogues. In Euthyphro, Socrates dissects the nature of piety by interrogating a priest. In Meno, he reduces a wealthy statesman to confusion over the definition of virtue. To Athenians, this was revolutionary and dangerous. Why? Because Socrates wasn't just questioning ideas, he was questioning power. Imagine the outrage. Athens prided itself on democracy, but its leaders were unaccustomed to scrutiny. Socrates' habit of exposing ignorance made him enemies. The playwright Aristophanes mocked him in the clouds, depicting him as a sophist who makes the weaker argument stronger. Yet Socrates never backed down. There is only one good, knowledge, he argued, and one evil, ignorance. In 399 BC, the 70-year-old Socrates faced a jury of 501 Athenians. The charges: corrupting the youth and impiety, a vague accusation of disrespecting the gods. His accusers, Meletus and Anytus, represented Athens' wounded pride. The city had just lost the Peloponnesian War to Sparta. Blame fell on moral decay, and Socrates, the eternal questioner, became the scapegoat. Socrates' defense, recorded in Plato's Apology, was anything but apologetic. He compared himself to a gadfly stinging a lazy horse, the horse being Athens itself. "If you kill me," he warned, "you will not easily find another like me." To the jury's shock, he proposed a reward instead of punishment: free meals for life, the honor given to Olympic champions. The message was clear: he'd rather die than silence his conscience. The verdict: guilty. When asked to choose his penalty, Socrates refused exile or silence. "I cannot live without philosophizing," he declared. He drank hemlock, a poison that paralyzes the body limb by limb, in a prison cell surrounded by grieving disciples. His last words: "Crito, we owe a rooster to Asclepius. Pay the debt." A cryptic farewell, perhaps thanking the god of healing for freeing his soul. Socrates' death was not an end. It was a beginning. His most devoted student, Plato, fled Athens, disillusioned by democracy's failure. But in exile, he crafted dialogues that immortalized his teacher. In the Republic, Plato's Socrates envisions a world ruled by philosopher kings, where truth trumps power. In Phaedo, he paints Socrates' final hours as a martyrdom for reason. Plato's Academy, founded in 387 BCE, became the world's first university, a temple to Socrates' belief that wisdom is the only good. Yet Socrates' influence stretched further. His student's student, Aristotle, took his methods to new heights. Aristotle's logic, ethics, and scientific inquiry owe their roots to Socrates' relentless questioning. When Aristotle tutored Alexander the Great, he planted seeds of Socratic thought that would later bloom across 3 continents, from Egypt to India. The Roman Cicero called Socrates the father of philosophy, and Renaissance thinkers like Erasmus revived his ideas, igniting the Enlightenment. Centuries later, in the vaulted halls of the Vatican, Raphael captured Socrates' legacy in brushstrokes. In the School of Athens, he stands amid history's greatest minds, a testament to his timeless role as philosophy's cornerstone. But Socrates' impact wasn't confined to art or academia. His spirit lived on in revolutions, from the French cry of "Liberté, égalité, fraternité," to Gandhi's nonviolent resistance. Why? Because Socrates taught humanity to question authority. And that idea cannot be imprisoned, silenced, or killed. Walk into a 21st century law school, and you'll witness Socrates' ghost. Professors grill students with hypotheticals. What defines justice in a world of AI? Can algorithms be ethical? This is the Socratic method in action, sharpening minds by stripping away assumptions. Even the scientific method, with its emphasis on falsification, echoes Socrates' mantra: the only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing. Today, as artificial intelligence grapples with moral dilemmas, programmers ask Socratic questions. Can a machine learn empathy? Who is responsible when an AI errs? In Silicon Valley, ethicists invoke Socrates' warning. False words are not only evil in themselves, but they infect the soul. His ancient wisdom is now code in the algorithms shaping our future. In schools, teachers use Socratic circles to dissect climate change or social inequality. Students learn that asking why is as vital as answering how. Meanwhile, therapists employ Socratic questioning to combat anxiety, challenging patients' irrational fears. From TikTok debates to TED Talks, the Agora has gone digital, and Socrates' voice still leads the conversation. Socrates' legacy is not without shadows. Critics argue he was less a saint of reason and more a provocateur. Athenian democracy, flawed as it was, had just survived tyranny. Was Socrates undermining it by mocking its leaders? Even his student Plato grew disillusioned with democracy, favoring rule by philosopher kings, a vision some call elitist, even authoritarian. And what of his followers? Alcibiades, a Socratic disciple, betrayed Athens to Sparta. Was Socrates' teaching to blame? Philosophers like Nietzsche accused Socrates of killing myth and reducing life to cold logic. Others claim his disdain for democracy echoes in modern anti-establishment movements. And then there's the paradox. Socrates died for truth, yet he never wrote his own ideas. Are we trusting Plato's idolized version of a man lost to history? Yet defenders counter. Socrates' questions were antidotes to complacency. His death wasn't futile. It exposed the dangers of silencing dissent. As Martin Luther King Jr. wrote from jail, academic freedom is a reality today because Socrates practiced civil disobedience. In a world of fake news and echo chambers, Socrates' call to follow the argument wherever it leads feels more urgent than ever. Socrates' story ends with a cup of hemlock, but his questions are immortal. In every courtroom where justice is debated, in every classroom where curiosity is kindled, in every algorithm grappling with ethics, his spirit lives on. He taught us that ideas are bulletproof, that even death cannot silence a mind committed to truth. So, the next time you question authority, challenge an assumption, or simply wonder, why? Remember the old philosopher who walked Athens streets, armed with nothing but a question. For in those moments, you are Socrates, and the world will always need its gadflies. If this journey through Socrates' mind sparked your curiosity, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell to join our quest through history's greatest ideas. Let us know in the comments, would you drink the hemlock for your beliefs? Until next time, keep questioning, keep wondering, and stay legendary.